We are back and live and all that goes along with that, Steve. It's great to be back here on Kentucky Talks.
Yep.
We've got I
got a full show today.
Pretty full show for sure. We didn't have a show last week.
We did. We had Sergeant Major Lassay on. It was just, you weren't able to make it, but I was here.
Yeah. So, and then that night, we had the Charlie Kirk memorial down by the river. And for those of you out there who don't know who Charlie Kirk was, I doubt you don't know. I doubt that there's anybody left out there that doesn't know who Charlie Kirk is or was. But he was a conservative. No, let me rephrase. He was a Christian conservative voice.
I wouldn't even say, I would say he was, I like to say a Christian voter. He voted based off of his Christian values and beliefs.
Yeah.
And he taught that.
He wanted to be known as for his Christian values first.
Right.
And foremost. So whenever you, and I can't, there's a lot of people going out there taking little pieces of his sound bites and things and and they're trying to make it sound like he was, the worst of the worst. But that's coming from the leftist podcasters and leftist media. But let me tell you something. Charlie Kirk was a good man, a good godly man.
Sure.
I
would agree with that.
He was known as that first and foremost. He always gave every person the opportunity to speak. He invited the people with opposing views to come speak to him specifically. He would make room for them to come talk. First, he would put them up there first and say, "Let's talk about this. Let's go through this." Yes, he's trying to convince them of his point of view, but he's listening to them. And a lot of people have said, if you go back and listen to a lot of what he said, he started out as 18 years old.
Yeah.
Doing this, it's that's a long. 13. He spent 13 years. He was only 31 years old when he was assassinated. And for those who don't know, on September 10th, 2025, Charlie Kirk was maliciously and viciously shot by a gunman at the Utah Valley University, and. I think it's in Orrin, Utah, I believe is where it is. I think, let me see, I have it here, I think.
You know what frustrates me more is it wasn't a matter of whether or not he was trying to make you feel like you weren't right and he was right and you were wrong. I think what he uncovered most for most people on those college campuses was how uninformed they may have been because, they had one particular interpretation and he didn't try to make them feel like you're stupid. He did try to educate them in such a way. Now, I will tell you that method does not always work or compute for a lot of people. And unfortunately, that's what our founders built, the freedom of speech around was your ability to communicate, but you cannot misinform people. You cannot go out, and he never did that. In fact, the thing that he tried to preach the most about was Jesus Christ. He spent more time talking about Jesus Christ first and foremost, and then he dealt with the issues. I loved actually watching the features where he debated Cambridge. These huge colleges brought him in. He's not educated in the sense of what collegiate educated, but he was self-educated by the number of books. He reads over 100 books a year, read over 100 books a year. In numerous commentations, he talked specifically about that. You don't need to wait for somebody to teach you when you can teach yourself.
Yeah, it's a... it reminds me of a line in the movie Good Will Hunting.
Yes.
You remember?
Yeah.
It was like you spent $250,000 or whatever it was educating yourself, getting that you could have got the same education for $1.98 in late fees at the library.
Yeah.
And it's like Charlie Kirk was that guy.
Yeah.
He
and
was
Good Will Hunting. Yeah, that's funny.
It was. He was the guy who educated himself. He promoted family. And when he was, he's famously quoted as, stating that, hey, we need to. He would tell young men, if you want to make a difference, get married, have kids.
Yeah,
raise
absolutely.
those kids.
Yeah.
Not waiting to, you're not ever going to have enough money to afford a child. When you
Go
and your
procreate.
wife, go fall in love, have children, fall in love, get married, have children, and then you grow in life with each other and with your family. It's an awesome thing. I mean, that's what we did growing up. Kathy and I was like 19 when we got married. We had to figure it out, and
young man.
We've been married. To see this is we've been married 35 years.
Wow!
And,
congratulations.
Well, thank you.
That is amazing. But, a lot of that comes down to faith, values, and beliefs. I know he talked a lot on education. We could go into like 50 million topics with Charlie Kirk in relationship to his life and legacy. But, I just think that if you were to emulate somebody, and I think the tragedy part is, I don't think America has seen a malicious attack against another human this public since probably Lincoln, where there's a death involved.
Well, yeah,
where there's an actual death. I mean, Ronald Reagan was shot. He was shot. Trump was shot at.
Well, don't forget you have JFK and you have.
Oh yeah,
RFK.
I'm sorry. That's correct. JFK should have been the one I was referring. Lincoln and JFK. You're absolutely correct. I apologize. But I don't think our nation has been woke up since those two time periods.
And RFK.
I apologize. I meant to say RFK.
Yeah, RFK probably is a better example because he wasn't president.
Right.
Now he was running for president when he was shot, but he was a candidate. So it was, but I mean, this is just where we are. And I saw a program, and I'm sorry I can't quote who this was, but it was a very interesting program on just the where we are as a society and how we get to this build up,
right,
and then we have basically we have a revival, a Christian and conservative revival every so many years that kind of brings everybody back in alignment, and we can move the country forward.
Right,
that happened in the 60s. The 60s built up until there was it came to a head, and then finally, we had to go through the 70s to get to the 80s, and then the 80s we became more, we had a Christian revival in the 70s that led to prosperity in the 80s. The 90s were kind of flat. 2000s we started having issues. We started getting, and now we're back into 2010s. We started building up towards where we are today, and here we are.
What did you think of? You watched it. I watched it. What did you think of that turnout? What did that feel like for you?
They said it was up 90 plus thousand in the arena, and then across the way they had tens of thousands more across the way. But they said that 100 million people watched the live stream.
Wow.
100 million people worldwide watched the live stream.
That's crazy.
It was not political. It was very much a church service. You had political bodies coming up and speaking from their heart about Jesus, about being saved and being,
people got saved.
People got saved at that service, which is not unlikely at a funeral. You get to reach people that you don't normally get to reach at a funeral, and it's unfortunate, but at the same time, it's fortunate because you've got an audience there,
right?
Especially when you're talking about somebody who was such a devout Christian as Charlie Kirk was.
I would.
We're getting ready to
another one.
And we're getting ready to bury one of the ladies at our church, and she's been active in our community
example
for 36, 37 years in the community, feeding people. And I'm speaking of Mary Harbison. She passed away this last week. And we're going to her funeral's tonight.
Yeah.
Which is
4
one
p.m.
reason.
at Journey Church. Yep. If you were ever a recipient of the food service,
The food pantry that she put on. I think it was. I think in 1989. I think 1989, 1988, something like that.
She's been doing it for
a
decades.
long time.
Yeah,
a long
that's
time.
crazy. And there's a vacuum there when you have that kind of leadership in your church and your community and in the nation. I think that you have a spark that occurs. You're either locally involved, you're either statewide involved, or you're nationally involved. And then if you're privileged enough to be global impact, that's amazing. But for Christianity, there's a lot of people that got a lot closer to Jesus as a result of this young man.
Yeah, and that's exactly exactly right. I mean, Charlie Kirk was, he, and whenever you listen to it, you got to listen to the entire, his entire show. And there's so many people who will pull out one sentence or a half a sentence,
cherry pick,
and make him sound like he was against people of color. He was against women,
Nazi.
It's furthest from the truth. It's a downright lie. And if you listen to the entire context, I mean, one of the biggest things that they talk about is he was against DEI.
Yeah,
and his point of view on DEI was that if you're a person of color, you shouldn't like DEI either, because what it does is that it makes people wonder if you have the actual talent to be in the position, or if somebody, or if you were hired. And it's like before DEI was a thing, you knew that if there was a person of color in that position, but they were there qualified because they were not just qualified, but they were probably excelling at that, and there was no question. And so Charlie's point was, hey, if DEI doesn't just hurt, African
Americans, it hurts all of us.
It hurts everyone. And you have to be very cautious of it. It doesn't mean that person's not talented or not have merit to be there. It means that now you almost have to question it, because now in the back of everyone's mind is,
yeah, well, and I think he used valid examples. He said,
He did.
Do you want somebody flying the plane that is accepted because of their skin color or because of their qualification? Do you want them to be trained?
If I don't have DEI, then I know a person, whether they're a person of color or a white person, whatever, we knew that was a qualified person because there was no
they
DEI.
went through the certification to fly this airplane, and it's gonna land safely, and I can put my life in that person's hands. There's a lot of reference. What's really sad, though, is the number of people that, I'm glad he's dead, or said very negative.
It's so sickening to me. Well, one thing before we get to those people, how about Erica?
Yes.
His wife.
Wow.
Erica. I mean, I would say that, and I consider myself a devout Christian, and to be able to come to that moment and forgive the gunman.
Yes.
That so quickly. I wouldn't say it was easily, because she had to gather herself a couple of times while she was doing it. But then she was able to say it. I forgive you. Man, that had to be hard. That had to be so difficult. I mean, because if somebody hurt my wife, it would be very difficult for me to say, well, that's, I forgive you. No, and don't get me wrong, she's going to have to forgive him, 1,000 times. Well, because I think she's going to be, she's going to be in a moment as a human.
Sure,
the human side of her is going to, her human spirit's going to, or her flesh is going to crop up from time to time, and she's going to miss Charlie, and she's going to be angry about this. But then she's going to come back to her Christian spirit, and the Spirit of God's going to come over her, and she's going to be like, "All right, I forgive him." But she's going to have to do that. I think for many
anyone, you have to
before.
learn forgiveness, because you're not meant to carry that burden. If you've been wronged, if you've been mistreated, abused, or whatever in your life where something important to you that you feel is important to you was taken from you, purposeful or by accident or whatever means necessary. Forgiveness is like the biggest thing that God wants us to do, because God is the one who does the true judgment on anyone. And if you're trying to carry judgment out individually on anything like that, you're carrying a burden that's far greater than what God has planned for you.
I'm glad you said that, because one thing I do want to touch on is, if we can, is judgment.
Sure.
When you see your neighbor as a Christian, I'm told that I'm supposed to let my neighbor know if they're doing something wrong, and they're supposed to let me know when I'm doing something wrong. Right? That's you do that out of love. That's not judgment.
Right.
Judgment is convicting you, putting you in jail, taking away your liberty. In this case, killing someone for that. That's the judgment that comes on from man.
Right.
God's going to judge you in the end. He's going to judge me. He's going to judge you. I don't judge anyone, but I am. If I love you as a neighbor, as a brother, as a family member, or like I said, just as a neighbor, then I should let you know when your house is on fire. Right.
Yep.
I should knock on the door and say, hey, your house is on fire. You need to get out. And that's what we do as Christians, is we're just letting people know that, hey, this is sinful behavior. Yeah. Now, some Christians do it with not spite, but they do it with
reservation.
No, I'm going to say that they do it with a little bit of smugness to them,
like
right?
judgment.
Yeah, with judgment, but just saying it is not. And Charlie Kirk never judged anyone that came up against him, right?
Nope.
He talked to them. He let them know what the Scripture says, and he showed them why Scripture was correct,
and he said
why he believed it was correct.
He said that we're not going to agree, but this is what I believe and why I follow it.
Exactly, and he never once said somebody that you should be put in jail or you should. Now, what do we judge people for? If you kill someone, you should be judged by man. You'll be judged by God as well. And
we're allowed to govern. We're allowed to govern.
It's right. He could be saved and end up Christian and be saved, and we don't know where that young man's going to end up. We don't know. That's not up to us.
Yeah.
What we do know is we need to protect society, and somebody who's able willing to do that once is liable to be able to get to that point again. Sure. And we need to protect ourselves from that.
It's interesting in service this weekend, and I think I kind of know where you're going, but the Kimmel conversations, the Jimmy Kimmel conversations, all the people coming out with all the hate and stuff like that. And, I was excited to see him lose, be pulled from the air and the radio waves for his rhetoric. Again, but then I had to think, and Pastor calmly reminded us in service on Sunday, that person doesn't know Jesus, or share the same values. And the only reason why he feels he wants to speak that way, and I love freedom of speech, and it's great.
Well, but we can get into freedom of speech.
Well, I got it. But the point is that you should never. It's not respectful. It's not the way I think the teaching, even if you don't believe in Jesus, the teachings of Jesus are all about humanity and goodness that's in people. And we shouldn't follow somebody that's going to be. So
for those who may not be familiar, I'm sure almost everybody is out there, but ABC suspended Jimmy Kimmel Live, the program, after remarks related to Charlie Kirk's killing. So they were basically talking about basically that the MAGA movement and Trump and were really they caused it, and. Really, that wasn't. It was at the very least, it was really bad timing on Jimmy Kimmel's part. He should not have. This is not a time to double down on that. And this is, you got to let people grieve let people get through this, and then, but the left is the left right now. They are acting as a fool as you can get. Jimmy Kimmel says what he said on his program. ABC suspended him, and they suspended him because he was in his what he submitted in his monologue for that next night was doubling down on it and going to another level. Supposedly that's what people are saying.
Sure.
And because he has, he submits that stuff to the writers and to the producers and blah, blah, blah. And it got up to the ABC heads and they said no. Well, a big part of that was Sinclair, Sinclair Broadcasting and who's the
FCC?
No, it wasn't. It was Sinclair Broadcasting. I'm trying to find it here. Sinclair and the other. It's another one that they're. This is a group. This is a group of people. This is a group that owns
Nexstar, Sinclair, ABC.
Nexstar and Sinclair. So Nexstar is one company. Sinclair is the other.
Yeah.
They own approximately 25% of all the ABC affiliates throughout the country. They own many stations. And so, and they had decided that they were not going to air Jimmy Kimmel anymore. They lodged a complaint to ABC, said we're not going to show it. And so ABC then, because of this, and then ABC investigated, and they shut down Kimmel for, I think a week. And he's come back on last night, I believe it was. And he was, I wouldn't say he was empathetic or, he was definitely a more somber and more to the point, not really apologizing for what he said, but at the same time realizing that he
overstepped the bound.
He went over a line. We all agree with that. Now, free speech. So you have a freedom of speech. But you do not have the freedom of speech when you're representing a company. So you work for them for
you get
freely.
The privilege. You serve at the privilege of that company.
Exactly. So you could have an employee here at the newspaper or on the podcast system here, and if that person if that person is your employee and they say something that goes against your values or your principles as a business or as an owner,
yes,
you have the right to remove that person from the air. Now, whatever your contracts and things say is a totally different animal, because you could be, you may not have the right to just stop paying them, but you have the right to remove them from your airwaves. It almost always.
Yeah, right. But the company is the legal responsible one.
Exactly.
In the end game. Well, you allowed this person on, so now you just lost your license or whatever.
And this is
maximized.
And this is an ABC programming, and of course now Sinclair and Nexstar have still. They are not showing them on their affiliates. They have decided to show local news. And I don't know how long that's going to last or if it's going to be forever. But people got an uproar calling this a freedom of speech case. This is not a freedom of speech case.
This is a business decision.
This is a business decision. They were saying, well, the Trump administration applied pressure through the FCC, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. The ABC, now see, here's a kicker, is there is a quote out there from Jimmy Kimmel back when Rosie O'Donnell was let go, and he was saying the same thing, how she didn't have the right to say blah blah blah, and they just let her go. You work for that company, so it's the exact same thing, but he didn't like the reverse,
the hypocrisy.
And it is the hypocrisy of it all. So anyway, but Jimmy Kimmel's back on ABC. We'll see how that goes. I'm not angry about Jimmy Kimmel. I don't like Jimmy Kimmel. I haven't watched Jimmy Kimmel in forever. And the number one thing I'll say, and we'll end this on the Charlie Kirk discussion on this, is Charlie Kirk listened to the opposition. He gave them a voice in his programming. You talk to Tim Pool, the other podcasters are out there that are talking about it. They have moved over to the Republican Party because people like Charlie Kirk and that allow them to come on and actually debate both sides, and they see how while they still hold their they still hold their beliefs, they have a voice that can be heard, and there's nobody shouting them down on the right. It's only the left that shouts people down. So
I would love to get on the Turning Point team if they were going to open up campuses wide and then regionally locate and then have when I'm trying to think of in sales world, right? You've got Zig Ziglar, right? He went around speaking. You had all those people speaking across the nation. I would love to see a whole bunch more of the Charlie Kirks rise up and be able to just have the same intellect and mental agility to have those types of debates on campus and educate.
The thing is that one of the things that Charlie was doing was mentoring people. He was mentoring young people, specifically young men, but young women as well. And I think this is an opportunity because he'd almost captured the young men, and now Erica's coming in and taking over. I have this feeling that God's going to work through her the same way and get the young women.
Let's do it.
So it's going to be. We'll have to see what happens. And
I do want to throw a little thing in before we make the transition to the next segment.
What you got?
There was a lot of interesting rhetoric on the internet over yesterday, like that we're supposed to have in a flash a whole polar reset and all this other stuff. And I love how every new week is supposed to be the end of times.
Oh my gosh!
And like it was supposed to happen yesterday.
It's always in September.
Yeah, I know.
It's almost always in September.
Why?
I have no idea. Whatever, the Mayan calendar ends in September. Everything that's supposed to happen, and every time I've ever heard this prediction, it's all in September. It's going to happen. I'm like, why is it September?
So guess what? We're still here.
Yes.
And the fact that I know you're still here, and that I know that several of my other very Christian faith believing friends are still here, only reassures me the fact that either we're all sinners, but our pastor's still here. So I have to believe, and all the pastors for all the local churches are still here. So it's not a end of times thing. Yeah. So I didn't. Everybody didn't just disappear and went into the day.
We're all sinners.
Yeah,
we're all sinners. We all fall short.
Yeah, I got it.
But the fact that we know Jesus and we know that Jesus is our Lord and Savior, that's what gets us. That's what gets us over that threshold.
I just thought it was funny with the rhetoric on the internet.
Yeah, it has been. It's everybody's. Every so often, there's the you remember the movie 2012, the Mayan calendar, the one
with the asteroid hits the Earth.
It's like everything's happening. You had the day after tomorrow, which is the polar vortex.
That was a really good one.
Great movies, but they're movies.
They are,
and a lot of these stories come up right before a movie's going to come out too.
Yeah, and I say this all the time. If you want to know your future, just grab a Bible. It's very clear. Yeah. And the biggest thing is
Jesus wins
believe
in
Jesus. Yeah, believe in Jesus, and you got a place in heaven.
So I know we're running short on time. Go
ahead.
But let's talk a little bit about some local news and some things. It's actually national news that's going to affect local people. Yeah. Right now, the U.S. Congress is in. I would say they're in the middle of debating it, but it doesn't look like there's a lot of movement right now. We're coming up to the end of a budget year, so September for most of you out there probably know, but October 1st through September 30th is the fiscal year for the U.S. government, and they have and they are coming up on that deadline. They were not able to put they were not able to put a full budget together with the one big beautiful bill. They were able to get a lot of stuff. But ultimately, they were still under the continuing resolution, and so now we are at the point where we have to put a budget together. So, and it's looming. Come September 30th at midnight, if we don't have a new budget, then you're going to have a lot of people, and we've been through this a long time. Yeah, I think the longest time that we went with without a budget and with a government shutdown. It was 37 days. I believe it's 37 days is the longest it's ever been. But we've had many others that were less than a week or a few days or what have you. And essentially, basically, what that means is that if you're a government employee, a non-essential government employee, you're going to be basically furloughed, or you're going to be laid off until it happens. Now, I don't want anybody to panic. They almost they've always paid those people almost like they were on leave those days. So they come back and usually
yeah, a lot of times they still get paid, but this one might be a little bit different. I don't know. We'll have to see. We can't make any promises. We have no reports of one way or the other.
Exactly. But I just don't want people to panic like that. But, hey, these people aren't going to get paid. But it can be if it goes 37 days. That puts a pinch on people. And so, but right now the Republicans are there's a lot of work, a lot of things going in. The Democrats want to see these healthcare subsidies to be continued. They were set to sunset in 2025. Here we are. We're at the end of it. They're trying to get them on back on, but the Republicans are don't really want to see those come back. But on the Republican side, there's some Republicans that want deeper cuts. People who are, there's been a few people. Thomas Massey here in Kentucky is one of them. Rand Paul is another one that wants to see deeper cuts. I don't want to put words in their mouth, but those are traditionally the people that voice their opinion mostly around here. So what does that mean? We have here in Brandenburg, Meade County, we have Fort Knox as a big employer here. We have the Patton Museum. That's all those things are affected by this. Obviously, the Army and such is going to necessary personnel are going to be run, but it's going to be the support personnel and things like that are going to be laid off through this thing. And so let's pray that we have a good resolution over the next week, so we don't see people out of work. Really and truly, when it comes down to it, if we have a government shutdown, it ultimately ends up being a loss for the U.S. because, like you said, most of the time they come back and they pay them for those days off, and then it's just lost time. But they get it's just money that we didn't get.
But it's got to make you think about who you're voting for and what you're voting for. They haven't been able to pass a budget because of the back and forth between not able to find common ground. We haven't been able to do that in a long time, and if we could just come together and figure that out, that'd be great. But there's a lot of issues that I agree with and disagree with, but there's still common ground between a lot of my friends.
There is.
And I just don't get that.
Well, I mean, it's like I know we have to jump off here real quick, but it's it's been, that's what's looming. Hopefully we come on next week's show and we'll be able to talk a little bit more about that.
Absolutely.
We'll know by next week we should have a clearer picture of where we are in that.
Sure.
And as a matter of fact, I think that the next week's show is on the 30th, if I remember.
It
right.
is.
So we'll definitely know that night.
Yeah.
But I'm sure we'll have a clearer picture. But Steve, thanks for having me on again. Thanks for bringing us back together, man. Yeah. Sorry I missed last week, but things happen, and
I'm looking forward to next week's episode.
Absolutely, brother.
Tune in. We'll get this up on Spotify. Check us out on the podcast on your drive. Talk to you soon.
Good night, everybody.